My name is
Hello.
Chloe. Hi, and this is my audience, May. And today I am sharing my commemorative speech on John Brown, the so called madman too sane for his time. So, for starters, hello, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my speech. At this time, I would like to speak at length about John Brown, a Christian abolitionist from Torrington, Connecticut, whose crusade against the American institution of slavery, will lead to him becoming the first person to be executed for treason in the United States over a century and a half ago. Though the 19th century is often a bleak one to look back on, Brown's unshakable resolve to confront what he knew was wrong is uplifting and inspirational in ways that defy the standards of his time. First, what sparked John's resolve. Born during the time of the Haitian Revolution, Brown was raised by a fervent abolitionist father whose hatred of slavery would undoubtedly inspire that of his sons. This contempt would further solidify when John was 12 years old and witnessed a slave owner brutally beating a black boy that he had previously befriended earlier that day for seemingly no reason aside from that he could. On that day, John would decide then to dedicate his life to the cause of bettering the status of black Americans. During the time he would spend in Hudson during his childhood, he would become very well acquainted with local Native Americans that he grew close to. He grew so close to them, in fact, that as a young man, years after he moved to Crawford County, Pennsylvania, some of his white neighbors would ask him for assistance driving off the natives who would hunt in the area annually. John's response? He told them he'd sooner take his gun and drive them out of the country. Later in his life, he would meet and befriend the one and only Harriet Tubman, with whom they shared a deeply mutual respect for one another. While John's disdain for the inhumanity of slavery was not unique amongst Northern abolitionists, his view of black Americans as peers, as allies, neighbors, equals, rather than subjects of pity, however, that was more so. To the point where he planned a major attack on the institution of slavery as it existed in America that would be built for nearly 20 years in the making. Brown's actions in 1859 would serve as a major impetus that would ultimately lead to the American Civil War. Though Brown's mission to trigger a massive slave rebellion that would spread across the South with the end goal of dismantling slavery in its entirety would fall short of the success he envisioned, his efforts were not entirely in vain, and his actions would create something of a ripple effect that cannot be understated. His death would lead him to become a martyr for the northern. Sorry, let me try that again. His death would lead him to become a martyr for the northern cause and hasten tensions within the South that would lead to the Civil War. He faced the gallows unafraid of his fate. If you ask me, I think he deserves at least a dozen statues in his honor. In closing, though Brown's radical direct action would lead to some choosing to paint him as a madman, the man was a Christian abolitionist who truly practiced what he preached, with the resolve to dismantle the institution of slavery that started early in his life. Furthermore, though he would ultimately and unfortunately find himself on the business end of the noose for treason as a result of his militant campaign, this only served to make him a martyr, whose initiative would become a catalyst and a strong reminder that equality is worth fighting for. And indeed, his decision to fight for equality would lead to the American Civil War. So, when you're out voting for a cause you believe in or expressing your civil liberties through the act of your right to protest, I hope you remember John's courage until the very, very end. Thank you for your time, and once again, have a nice rest of your day, and thanks for being my audience.